Alright, this is for my project with kinematics. My part that I designed for kinematics is supposed to alleviate an issue with late model Firebirds and Camaros in a second generation, mostly in between like 1976 and 1981. They had a linkage going from the steering column, which is right here. Here's that linkage. This goes down to the shifting lever on the side of your automatic transmissions. Now, this lever up on the steering column, the purpose of that is to actuate your steering wheel lock, your neutral safety switch, and your backup lights. That's all it's for. Now, this is an in-between year where they weren't using a steering column shifter, so they went to this console shifter. Now, what they had to do was run a cable from your console shifter down onto the side of your automatic transmission to work that lever back and forth to select your gears. Now, they had to keep this style of linkage going up to the steering column until the later, like 1982 and up, where they got rid of this altogether. Now, the linkage on the bottom of the car bear with me, I'm trying to juggle a handful of things at once. Now, here's that cable that goes up to the console shift. Alright, and that goes over and it works that lever. You see that stamped out piece of steel with the two ears and that bar going through it? Now, if you notice, that bar doesn't really fit in that stamped out piece of steel that great. It really ought to be like a little bit longer and have like a hole for a cotter pin or something to go through to prevent it from falling out. It doesn't, but it's kind of not so great. So the other issue with that is if you want to install large tube headers, which I have here, but I got lucky. Now the other side of this bar right here goes over the top of the headers and hooks into the frame rail here, where there's a plastic bushing that holds it in place. It's just a pin going into the side of the rail. It's fairly loose. That, and you can see that other rod that's going through like a little collar thing. There's a set screw on the other side of it that holds that rod in place. The horizontal rod, or excuse me, the vertical rod. That rod is the same rod that you saw earlier up on the steering column. Now, the part I'm designing gets rid of this horizontal rod, right? And it gets rid of this stamped out piece of steel. Now, if I could have, hey Dad, you want to work that shifter? That way you can see how this works. Yeah, just work it all the way through. Now, as that cams over to a position, that's, you know, how the transmission knows what gear to stay in, to be in park, neutral, or whatever. Alright, so the part, I don't know if I'm going to show my part first or after, but you'll see what that part is intended to do in the rest of my presentation. Now I'm going to show you the steering column so you can see how that works. Let's see here. Alright, you can see that bar. You'll see it move when my father actuates the shifter. Alright, that's the park position right there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So in that position, you would have your steering wheel locked so you can't turn the wheels or anything. And in that position, there's a switch inside the column that lets the starting circuit know, we're in park, so it's okay to try to start. You want to bring it down to neutral or reverse?
Yeah.
Alright, that's reverse. So again, that same switch on the inside of the column is going to say, oh, alright, we're in neutral, it's safe to start the vehicle. Then you want to go to, that's reverse. So all that does is it's going to turn on the rear lights, the backup lights. Now you want to go to neutral? Alright, that's neutral. So also telling the starting circuit, we're safe to start, we're not in gear. Alright, so that's pretty much it. Now the whole purpose of this is to allow for clearance for large diameter headers, because you have problems routing that past that horizontal bar. So if you can get that out of the way, you can it's easier to run larger tube headers and do various other engine swaps as long as you're using a turbohydromatic series transmission. Alright, well, that's it. You'll see the rest of it later. All right, bye.